We do have a message for you, right? And I think John was about to introduce me, Captain Bill. Right? And I am the first one, he will tell you, that I do not create anything new here in terms of technology. Nothing. All I am giving you is an alternative way to be free of having your technology and your knowledge suppressed. You cannot find your technology in those buildings anymore. That is the problem. We all ran into that problem. Where do you find your technology? In the books, in the lectures, in the tapes, and so on. We're advising everyone that can to make a storehouse of these technological materials, policy letters, bulletins, tapes, everything they can find against the time when the government succeeds in its takeover and goes around and does a Ray Bradbury Fahrenheit 451 on everyone they can. That means burn your books. We are a bigger threat to the people who are secretly trying to control this planet than any other group on this planet. If you do not believe that, listen to the debrief tape, read the issue I wrote called Models and Scenarios, which tells how this planet is being run, how it is being controlled. Listen to Ron's Journal 1967, and then go push on those lines for yourselves, knock on those doors for yourselves. And if it's all hallucination, my friends, nothing will happen. However, if there's truth in it, you will find there is resistance there. If it was just a nice science fiction story like Ron talked about in his tape, we could all ha-ha laugh about it and go on being slaves. It is not that. I have personally found that out for myself. I invite you all to find it out for yourselves. Operation Phoenix is Scientology. It is the actual rebirth of Operation Phoenix Ron did in Phoenix, Arizona in 1952 when he had to break away from the Dianetic research people who had taken over his research, his whole operation in Dianetics. He writes about this in Policy. What did he do? He started Scientology in Phoenix, Arizona.
And then he changed from Has to Hezi. Same thing.
Yes. Whenever he was threatened, or whenever the thing was taken over by suppressive interest and held in by legal enforcement and so on, he just exteriorized out the top of that organization and set up a new one with the same technology, the same principles, the same policies, and the same road to freedom. Yes. And all the theta he could. Right. Now, not only tonight do you have an alternative, the actual alternative to, the only alternative to the fear and the hiding and being disconnected from each other as OTs. You have an alternative on the third dynamic. But John was about to tell you we have the alternative on the fourth dynamic too, because the reason the former third dynamic was able to be suppressed was because the fourth dynamic engram was not handled. And that engram is not just a fast-track incident. It is being kept in PT intentionally on this planet to keep it a slave, controlled, conforming planet of one-like bodies. Yeah. Now, this is the alternative that Ron started in 1974 to handle that fourth dynamic. He tried it from within the church, and it was so heavily attacked in the first 2 months by government agencies. Arthur Hubbard was on this with me. We were threatened with assassination after 6 weeks of promoting this plan. We were threatened with assassination by government agents. After another week, the meeting we were having in Vancouver, I don't know if any of you were there, was entered by a gang of 40 motorcycle jacketed punks. And they tried to break up our meeting. They had been given drugs by a psychiatrist who worked for the government, told them that these people are out to rob money from people, go and break up their organization and take these drugs as payment. They ran into the place swinging motorcycle chains, and 700 Scientologists arose at the call, HCO, bring order, and threw all of those assholes out the door in 3 seconds. Now, they were so, that had never happened. It was incredible to them. They didn't sow any fear into that auditorium. They didn't sow any, nobody ran from them. They ran toward them and they just mashed them out the doors. They couldn't even move. Okay, they grabbed the leader outside. He was white. He came in, he said, "You must be a real church. No one could act like that. I apologize. I'm sorry, my friends. Well, we didn't mean to." He ran up against the 7th dynamic, fellas. All right? You're not just a 3rd dynamic. You're not just a 4th dynamic. You're all dynamics. The tape, Dynamics in the Tone Scale, the bulletin was written off of that tape that David so referred to just a few minutes ago, tells you that. You are all dynamics. Okay. So what is the plan? The alternative, the way on the 4th dynamic so that this can never happen again? Yes, the 3rd dynamic, you say multiple source points, but what if they do go around and start Fahrenheit 451, burning your books, legally sequestering your materials, because of some little organization the government now controls that says, we own the copyrights, we own the copyrights. See, Ron never authorized RTC. He is not on the founding board of that RTC. We have their corporation papers. There is nothing in there that Ron authorized. RTC was set up as an idea, seeded into the top management of the CMO by an SP government operative named Alan Hubbard. MI6, MI5, who was the chairman of the board of directors, Church of Scientology in Los Angeles, still is. His idea was given to Miscavige, and his set up the RTC, non-complying with LRH's order to keep all the organizations of Scientology totally separate so they could not be hit by illegal action all at once. I remember as he moved back off the lines for legal reasons, he said, in a dispatch that I read to them, said, keep the organizations separately incorporated. There was whole projects to do this. And after he was off the way, RTC put it back together so it could be hit by the government in one place and it would all fall. Now, why can't this happen again? Because the leaders of this are not just after our church, they're after the whole of this planet. The enemy is not after just Scientology. They're trying to hit the Catholics, the Mormons, everyone, the anti-religious movement. You go to those people, you'll find out they have the same problems. They're not only after you, they're after governments. They handle them with economic duress. Listen. Listen. Take a look. It's exactly the same thing. You want to know why we are so dangerous to them? Imagine a cell. 6 walls, cell, no door, no window. A being inside that cell. However, the cell is 20 feet across, and 20 feet high, and 20 feet wide. But the being, his diameter is only 19 feet. His awareness is only 19 feet. Does he see the walls? No. Now, if you're a suppressive, what you do is you give the guy, the being in the middle, some drugs, and you give him some boomph on the TV, and you make him think he's a one-lifetimer. You give him a little bod to sit in there in, and his awareness finally goes down to 18 feet. And when it goes down to 18 feet, you move the walls into 19 feet. Am I tracking with you? Have you ever experienced this on this planet?
Yeah.
And finally, when you get him down to about this size, the walls are down about this size, and everyone's naturally compartmented and conforming nicely all over the whole planet, one lifetime bodies, and the guys sitting up on the top are going, man, we got this whole planet. And if anybody jumps out of line, anybody non-conforms, well, we got the methods. Lobotomy, shock treatment, implanting, Siberia, whatever you want, baby, it's there. That is the mechanism by which this planet is being controlled right now. And the thing they fear most is people who can, one, see the walls, but they even fear something else more, because the person who can only see the walls is still a piece in the game. And he can be controlled as a piece. By cutting his 2D, by cutting his economic security, by declaring him suppressive, whatever you have to do, you can try and get his awareness back down to where you don't see the walls anymore. Right? Yes. Okay, but the thing they fear the most is a guy that sees the walls and goes right through them. Because right outside those walls is freedom. And there's no fear. But not only that, the guy has now graduated from a piece to a player. And when he's a player, he can handle other players who are playing the suppressive game. You can't handle suppressives who have a lot of earthly power and money and lines, and so you can't handle those guys as a piece. You have to handle them as a player. And I invite you all as OTs to get your case gain in application as well as the knowledge, as well as the processing. There are 3 areas of case gain. You'll know, Ron said, 50% from auditing, 50% from training, and 50% more from application. You want to get big, you're going to run into the walls first. You go right through them, there's no more fear, you realize, hey, I'm a player too. Those guys that are on the other side are not as big as you. That's why they're afraid of you. All right, so what do? What game do you play there? What game are they playing? Putting guys in smaller boxes, putting them down. That's the old civilization, we call it. So our game is simply the new civilization. And that's what Ron called it in 1974. But it found out it could not be pushed from inside the church. It has to be pushed outside the church, as we are all members of this planet's civilization. It is a 4th dynamic game. He ended off that cycle. He never ended it. He ended it in the church, but he never ends a cycle. He always comes back to finish those cycles. All the OT projects of 1967, all of them led up to this particular game called New Civilization. All of them fit under it. Everything we are doing on this planet fits under this game called the New Civilization. I want to read to you. It is not very long. The New Civilization game. Definition. Are you ready?
Yeah.
To join, to see if you want to play a game. You're free to say, well. By the way, I just want to reiterate first, you have 2 rights, inalienable rights that we respect, that LRH gave you on the OT tapes, right? The OT lecture series tapes. One is the right to your own sanity. No one is going to try to hurt your sanity level. 2, your right to leave a game.